Welcome back, everyone. Scarland here, bringing you another Neverwinter video. And today we are back on the preview server again with the Warlock. Today we're going to strictly be talking about the Soulweaver, and we're going to go in depth and take a look at this. I know the Hellbringer video, the part 2, was extremely long, but there was a lot of stuff that we needed to cover. I'm going to try to structure this one a little better so we can try to cut down on the time. Now, a lot of people didn't mind the hour video, but like I said, I want to keep this one structured a little better. So we are talking about the Soulweaver here. This is part 3. If you have not seen part 1 or part 2, links will be in the description. I would suggest you watch all 3 videos. So now that we're concluding the Warlock, we've been on preview now for 3, almost 4 weeks. The Warlock still hasn't really gotten very many changes. So we're going to be talking about the Soulweaver today. Now, if you watched part 1 of the video, you know my feelings on the Warlock right now. I want Hellbringer to be completely focused on AoE, where I would like Soulweaver to be focused on single target. However, the company isn't going in that direction. They would prefer that Soulweaver be a healing spec for the Warlock, and it's really, really bad right now. Not only is the Hellbringer very unbalanced right now, but the Soulweaver is just as broken and inconsistent as well, which we're going to get into here right off the bat. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the Soulweaver on preview currently. Now, first on the list, I want to talk about the spark generation and the issues with Soulweaver. They want Soulweaver to be a healing class. Well, the problem is that it's so bad right now that it doesn't even compare to the Cleric. Now, I don't know anything about the healing spec of the Paladin, so I cannot compare. However, I did numerous dungeons with Clerics, and the Cleric would outperform me by tenfold. The Cleric would do 17 million, and the Warlock would do about 5 to 6 million in healing. Now, I'm fine with the Cleric being the #1 big daddy of the healers. That's not the issue here. The issue here is, why would you ever take a healing Warlock over a Cleric when the Cleric is going to outperform in the healing department? You're simply not going to do it. You're going to take a tank, you're going to take a Cleric, and you're going to take 3 pure DPS. Why would you ever take a Warlock over a Cleric? That's the problem. The Warlock cannot compare or even come close to the healing magnitude of the current Cleric right now, and it needs balance, because if they want to take the Warlock seriously, then there needs to be a reason why you would actually take a Warlock in the dungeon over a Cleric. Whether it be maybe you get a little less healing on the Warlock, but maybe you get some buffs or debuffs from the Warlock. There has to be a reason to take the Warlock. I know the current meta right now on preview is running 5 DPS with healing companions. You don't even need a healer in the game. And that's a huge setback from what the company wanted. The company wanted the Holy Trinity. They wanted you to be forced to have to run a tank. They wanted you to be forced to run a Cleric, and then either 3 DPS or an off tank or 2 Clerics or whatever the case may be. But they wanted Mod 16 to be this huge balance where it forced you to play the Holy Trinity. And as it sits on preview right now, you simply just don't even have to do that. I don't know if they're going to have to nerf healing companions. I don't know what they're going to have to do to find balance in this game. They could have just left the game alone, but they wanted to introduce all these changes. Well, now they have to balance it, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it. So as it sits right now, like I said, my argument is that the Warlock healing compares nowhere even close to the Cleric. There is no reason to take a Warlock in a dungeon just because he's a healer. If you want to take 2 DPS, a tank, a Cleric, and a Warlock as a backup healer, well, then you're going to lose out on damage, thus making the overall dungeon run most likely longer. Because the Warlock's not even at a hybrid spot at this point. You can't do a good bit of damage and a good bit of healing. You either have to play Soulweaver for DPS or Soulweaver for pure healing. So let's go ahead, let's jump into this. Let's start with the at-wills here. Right off the bat, a lot of Warlocks right now on preview are using Eldritch Blast. I don't know why. It does a lot of damage, but there's literally no spark generation. So let me get rid of my sparks here real quick. Let me just spam this here. Let me try to get rid of my sparks. And I will prove to you guys that there is literally no spark generation on this at will, thus making it useless. So here we go. We're spamming EB. You're going to notice 0 spark generation. Yeah, the damage is fine, I guess, but you need spark generation if you're going to run Soulweaver, especially for healing. This is unacceptable. You can't have an at-will that literally provides no sort of spark generation. So moving right along, we do have Essence Defiler, which we're going to use as our main at-will because that's our only spark generation that we have on the entire class, unfortunately. Dark Spiral Charge, I talked about in the Hellbringer video. We don't really care. But, so, we're going to use Essence Defiler here. Now, like I said, this is the only spark generation we have. So, let me get in combat here again. Let me deplete my sparks. But the problem I have is that it's too slow. The spark generation is way too slow, and that's one of the biggest problems on the Soulweaver right now. There needs to be more forms or more ways, or even increase the output of it on Essence Defiler. I think right now the tooltip says you get 2 sparks every final hit of the combo. It should simply be every hit gives you a spark. Simple as that. Every time you're sitting here spamming Essence Defiler, you should be able to get a spark. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's the biggest part of this class right now, is the struggle to maintain your sparks, which we'll show in the full rotation. Moving right along with the at-wills, we have this new one that we were introduced to. Soleil the Scourge put out a 4 or 5 minute video on this just by itself. It's bad, it's clunky, it's not good. It's a 75 healing aspect, but it's like Dread Theft. Get rid of the laser beams, guys. I don't know why you guys think that the laser beams works in this game. It doesn't. It hasn't for, as long as I can remember. We talked about Dread Theft in the Hellbringer video and how bad it is. Well, now we have an at-will that essentially does the same thing. Soleil talked about being able to target anything with this. So look at this. You can target NPCs. You can target your companion. You can. I think you can even target enemies. Maybe not. But imagine being in a dungeon and there's 5 companions running around, there's 5 teammates running around. You have a lot of stuff that you can actually latch onto by mistake. If they're going to go with this route and use this clunky ass mechanic, then make it only player targetable. There's no reason to target a companion, there's no reason to target NPCs. And the healing is very low on it, and it's just a channel. As many sparks as you have, you will literally channel to whoever you're targeting. My suggestion is get rid of the whole laser beam thing, make it a single target DOT heal. So if you're targeting an ally, you just pop that once, and it does like a 10-second DOT heal for X amount of magnitude or something. Just something nice and easy. There's no reason for it. So that's the at-wills. Like I said, the biggest problem is the spark generation. It's a huge problem and why the Soulweaver is underperforming. This should be a Soul Spark every single hit, not every other third hit, I believe. So that's the at-wills. Let's go ahead and take a look at the encounters. Alright guys, so here we are. Let's take a look at the encounters for Soulweaver. Now right off the bat, the company wants Soulweaver to be a healing Warlock. So why are you already limiting us in the encounter department? For instance, we have Killing Flames, Vampiric Embrace, Dread Theft, Hadar's Grasp, Curse Bite. That's 5 encounter powers right off the bat that are technically completely useless on a Soulweaver. If you're playing Soulweaver in the company's eyes, you should be worried about healing and not DPS. You simply don't have, you only get 3 encounters, right? This isn't some big MMO on PC. You're limited to 3 encounter powers. That's it. That's all you can run. It's always been like that. It's probably always going to be like that. So why are you giving us 5 DPS powers on the Soulweaver spec that have no healing aspects whatsoever? Now, in my eyes, like we discussed in part 1 and some in part 2, I want Soulweaver to be focused on single target. I want all this healing stuff gone completely. But that's never going to happen. But as it sits right now, you could technically and theoretically play Soulweaver as a DPS and only use some minor healing stuff for yourself. A lot of Warlocks, especially initially when Preview launched, Soulweaver was outperforming DPS-wise Hellbringer. It's changing now. Hellbringer is putting out a little more DPS than Soulweaver, but it's so close that it's a joke. Why would anyone play Hellbringer when you could play Soulweaver, do DPS, and still have some healing aspect in your back pocket? Because keep in mind, there's no lifesteal anymore. So we have all these DPS powers that no one should theoretically be using, because if you're playing Soulweaver, you should be focused on healing. So now you have 10 encounters total, and now you're going to be looking at the second half, which is your healing aspect. First on the list, we have good old Pillar of Power. For whatever reason, they removed the damage from this now. Pillar of Power does no damage. I don't agree with it. I think it should still do damage. But right now, it's just a buff. You get 10% damage buff and 10% healing. Now again, as Soulweaver, you shouldn't be focused on damage, so 10% damage is irrelevant. What is relevant is the 10% healing. But Pillar of Power is a very clunky thing now, because if you're in a dungeon and you have to dodge all the red, it has a 11-second cooldown. Well, now you just got targeted. Now you got to leave your conduit. They do have the 3-second Power of 9 Hells entwined with this. 3 seconds after leaving. So you have 3 seconds before you're able to gain that power back. Because remember, when you're dodging everything now in dungeons, I don't like this. I don't like this at all, unfortunately, because if you have to dodge, it sucks. But you're kind of forced to use it because it's such an increase to your healing. It's 10% increased healing on this. So you kind of have to use it, but I guess you're going to have to adjust and try to figure out how you're going to maintain it. Moving right along. So this is the new encounter, Shatter Spark, that was introduced. This is by far the biggest heal the Warlock has. It's 400 magnitude. As long as you have Soul Sparks, you can spam it. All of these mechanics are based off your Soul Sparks. So there's no casting cost. It just depletes your Soul Spark. That's why Soul Spark generation is so important right now. This costs 5 Soul Sparks. So once you run out of Soul Sparks, you need to generate those sparks again so you can continue to heal your team. Like I said, this does no damage. It does nothing. It literally just has a 400 healing magnitude. It's by far the biggest heal the Warlock has. Moving right along, we have Wrath Shadow. It's a 200 magnitude DOT as well as a 200 heal DOT. It needs increased. It only costs 2 sparks, which makes it very spammable. However, we don't care about the damage, we care about the healing. And unfortunately, there's a better setup to run, so you're not going to really use it, unfortunately. Horror Storm is one of the biggest controversial spells that we have. It's 300 healing magnitude and it's 300 DOT magnitude. Everyone is gravitating toward Horror Storm. Horror Storm is very nice. Whether you look at it as the DOT, it spreads lesser curse if you're playing DPS, and it's also a healing effect. And you can literally spam that as well as long as you can maintain your Soul Sparks. So does it need adjusted? Yes, it needs fine-tuned. I don't know if they need to nerf it. I don't know if they need to buff it. I don't really know what they need to do with it, but it's very, very good. And unfortunately, we can't really use it. And we'll get to that in a minute, why we can't use Horror Storm. Finally on the list, we have Warlock's Bargain. This basically hits yourself, gives your team HP, which we don't care about. It's only 200 healing magnitude, which is very low in the grand scheme of things. But what we care about is, again, another buff. Outgoing healing is increased by 10%, and that's why it's so important. So that's your basic setup, unfortunately. You're going to run POP strictly for the 10% healing buff. You're running Warlock's Bargain strictly for the 10% healing buff, and the only thing that you're going to cast is Shadow Spark non-stop because it's the biggest heal you have. And it sucks. This is a very clunky and shitty mechanical way to play a healing class. So let's go ahead and do a brief rotation. So you pop your Pillar Power, you pop your Warlock's Bargain, and then you pop your Shadow Spark. And that's it. That's your whole rotation. You'll be healing your entire group. So Warlock's Bargain will heal your group minor, and then you get that 10% healing buff, and then you spam your Shadow Spark. Pillar of Power, Warlock's Bargain, and you spam your Shadow Spark, and you basically just keep doing that. Keep casting Warlock's Bargain, keep casting Shadow Spark, and you'll notice that I'm not able to maintain my spark generation by doing this. The spark generation, like I said, is way too low. It's a very clunky system. I actually like the system. I said this on the Hellbringer video, that I said that I would like Curse Bite and other AoE abilities on Hellbringer to derive and deplete your soul sparks instead of having casting costs. I like the system itself. I like the mechanic itself. The problem is that you're simply, right now, currently, not able to maintain any sort of spark generation. So that is the encounter powers. Let's talk about the dailies here momentarily. Alright guys, and we're looking at the dailies. So it's all the same dailies except minus one new one. They took Gates of Hell and gave us a new one. So you have a Cursed Souls, we don't care about. Does nothing for healing. Brood of Hadar, same thing. It does a shit ton of damage, but there's no healing. So you're playing Soulweaver to be a healer. I don't understand. We have Tyrannical. Same thing. It does nothing. If this was a group debuff, then maybe there'd be a reason to run it, right? Increased damage received by you by 20%. Tyrannical Curse only affects you. You don't care about DPS. If you're playing DPS on a Soulweaver, then in the company's eyes, you're wrong. You shouldn't be playing DPS. You're supposedly a healer. Now we come into Emulation Spirits, and I want to talk about this. Emulation Spirits is the go-to for Soulweaver. I think it needs improved. The magnitude and the damage needs to be higher. It does generate soul sparks for you. That's why you're going to be using it. I think they should add a healing aspect. Every time one of your spirits casts and hits an enemy, not only should it give you a soul spark, I think it should give you like 3 soul sparks, honestly, because it only lasts 10 seconds, right? It's a 10-second daily. You're not going to get this all the time anymore. I think you should get 3 soul sparks from this, and every time the spirits hits, it should do an AoE healing effect as well. That way it gives it another reason for the whole healing scheme of things. It's another healing output. So let's just say you're able to cast your Emulation Spirits like maybe twice per boss if you're lucky, maybe 3 times per boss. It lasts 10 seconds. It's going to help your spark generation as well as also increase your healing output. Now, finally on the list, they gave us a new one here. It's called Soul Pack, and it's not good. They need to completely change and rework this. You form a Soul Pact with up to 4 other allies, so it's your complete group, basically. Damaging yourself while healing and buffing your allies. Okay, interesting. So, you're going to heal your entire group for 500 magnitude. The damage resistance of targets is increased by 10%. This complete effect lasts 10 seconds. Now, it's going to hit you for 2% of your maximum hit points every second. This currently isn't working. Every single time I've used Soul Pack in a dungeon, I've died. This literally kills you. You can't out-heal the damage that it puts against you. Every single time I've used this in a dungeon where I was the only healer, I could not maintain my self-healing to heal myself because Soul Pack was hitting me for so much damage that it would kill me every single time. I'm assuming this is a bug because you're only supposed to lose 2% of your HP every second for 10 seconds. So technically you're only supposed to lose about 20% HP. This kills me every single time. The only way I can survive this daily is if we actually do have a dedicated cleric, and I tell the cleric, hey, get ready to heal me because I'm popping my fucking soul pack over here. This is very clunky. I think it's broke. It needs reworked. It needs to do something else. So that's the dailies. Unfortunately, you're basically going to use Emulation Spirits. Now, on preview right now, Emulation Spirits is broke. You can actually cast infinite amounts of these and they continue to stack, which I'll show very briefly here. Run over to the dummies. We will spawn our spirits. There's our pretty little spirits. So now we need to get some AP back here. So give me a second while we boost our AP. And now we have another set of spirits. We'll pop those. Let me boost my AP again, guys. Of course, I can't maintain spark generation, so it takes a little bit, unfortunately. Let me go ahead and boost my AP a little more. Again, I'm out of soul sparks again, so it's like that's the biggest issue I have with this is the spark generation simply just does not work. So here's another set of spirits. So we should theoretically have 6 spirits on the battlefield right now, and I don't think they fixed this. Yeah, you could clearly see they still all show up. I have 6 spirits right now. They don't disappear on preview. This, of course, is a huge bug. This needs to be fixed. Hopefully gets fixed. It's already been, coming up on 4 weeks on preview, and this still hasn't been addressed. But yeah, it's there. So they're invisible to you. Another thing that's bugged the interactions is that it keeps multi-procking the 3-piece set, I believe. The Rune of Aggression, you can clearly see a chain cast because that damage right there is all my spirits attacking, is what that is. You can see the rune keeps also casting. So yeah, that needs addressed. All you simply do is just chain cast Emulation Spirits, and they don't go away. So that's a pretty big issue. Hopefully that gets fixed. Moving right along, let's go ahead and talk about the daily powers, or I'm sorry, the class features. So we have Shadow Walk, Dark Ones, Dark Prayers, ACC. For whatever reason, they moved Prince of Hell off of Hellbringer and moved it to Soulweaver, and I don't understand. Increase your armor penetration by 2,500. Well, that's completely irrelevant, because you shouldn't be playing Soulweaver as DPS, right? Right, Cryptic? You want Soulweaver to be a fucking healer. So why? You don't even need armor pen. It's the same philosophy that we use on the live servers right now if you're playing Temptation. If you're playing Temptation on the live servers right now, none of your stats matter. Because all you're focused on is casting Warlock's Curse, so you get a 20% debuff on whatever it is you're attacking, right? That's the new capstone on live, and your statistics literally don't matter. You don't need maxed out armor pen, you don't need maxed out crit, you don't need maxed out accuracy. It doesn't matter, right? Your sole goal is a healer. You're not focused on DPS. Your main objective is to keep your team alive. So again, Prince of Hell, why? Why was this moved over from Hellbringer? And I mean, like I said, it's 2,500 armor pen. It's completely irrelevant. The same thing with all these class features. You have Shadow Walk, which we talked about in the Hellbringer video. We talked about Dark One's Blessing. We talked about Dark Prayers. Like, there's no reason to ever run Dark Prayers. 2,500 defense, Miles will say 0 defense. ACC, we don't care about Lesser Curse, right? You're a healer. Don't care about damage. Don't care about Lesser Curse. Prince of Hell, I don't understand. So we're using Borrowed Time. Each Soul Spark used on a power will heal you for 1%. Whoop-de-doo, it's a minor heal. It's completely irrelevant. 1% is a joke. Warding Curse. Lesser Curse now lowers afflicted targets' damage dealt by 5%. It would be different if it lowered their defense. No one cares about lowering the damage that a boss does. Let's just say you have Cradle, right? The boss hits for, 500,000 damage a swing or something. If you lower that by 5%, what's the difference? You're still going to get killed regardless, right? Now, of course, I'm making up those numbers. Those aren't actual numbers, but you get the point, right? There's no point in lowering a monster's outgoing damage by 5%. It's useless. Give us something better. Please. If you want this to work, you're going to have to give us something better. Finally, we have Essence Mastery. Essence Drain now deals 5% more damage and healing. Whoop-de-freaking-do. Essence Drain is poopy caca. Essence Drain is your now tab ability. Drain the very essence of your enemy's souls, dealing damage to them and restoring your health and soul sparks. It's a very clunky system. I can't show you right now because of the feats I've taken, but essentially you sit here and just hold down tab and it will gain spark. But I mean, you can't do anything. You have to sit still. It's like Dread Theft mechanics where you sit here, you soul drain. It's supposed to heal you and do damage, but sometimes it bugs out where it doesn't do either, and you just gain the spark generation from it. It's very clunky. The mechanics are very bad with it. Let's wrap up and talk about the overall feats, guys. So we have Essence of Power over Essence of Time. Essence of Power gives Essence Drain a 15-second cooldown, and basically you get 15 Soul Sparks instantly. I like the overall mechanic because this is the only other spark generation that we have, and we can only cast it every 15 seconds. Unfortunately, it's not fast enough. This is not fast enough to maintain the spark generation that you currently need. One of the fixes you need to do is Essence Defiler needs a increase in the output spark generation. Now, the other one is where Essence Drain grows in strength as you channel it. After 2 seconds of channeling, you start to gain 2 Soul Sparks per tick. So this is where I'm saying where you simply hold down your tab button and it just channels nonstop and you gain Soul Sparks. However, like I said, it's a very clunky mechanic, and it's just not very good, unfortunately. So yeah, we're going to take the 15 sparks every 15 seconds just to help maintain some sort of spark generation. Now we have Dark Reverie versus Transfusion Tactics. Dark Reverie is garbage now. It's absolute garbage fire. This needs reworked, buffed, something. This is hideous. Increase the awareness and critical avoidance of your teammates by 2,500. Now, we talked about this in the Hellbringer video. Giving raw statistical values now is pointless because unless your teammates are close to the cap of awareness or critical avoidance of the monster that you guys are fighting, boosting 2,500 should just say 0. Okay? I don't know if you guys understand how the opposing roles work or how the new statistical system is working, but let's just say you have to have a cap of 33,000 awareness, right? Well, if your teammate only has 11,000 awareness and you're using Dark Reverie, so now you increased his awareness to 13,500, that doesn't matter. That translates to 0. You have to hit the new cap thresholds in the game. Otherwise, the monster that you're fighting is going to steamroll you because you're not meeting those caps that you need to be. Now, if you're running with a teammate and let's say he has 31,000 awareness and now you're boosting him over the threshold, then Merry freaking Christmas. But who cares? Who cares? Everyone should be hitting their statistical caps regardless. Let's even look at my awareness for comparison. I'm at 28,000 right now. So theoretically, if I used Dark Reverie, this would boost me enough that my awareness would matter, I guess. Right? But who cares? Who's going to take Dark Reverie over Transfusion Tactics? Your powers that directly heal you now also heal all allies around you for 15% of the heal, which in my eyes needs increase. This should be like 25 to 30 to 35%. So anytime you're healing, this is just another healing on top of that. Who's going to take Dark Reverie over this, playing a healing class? Exactly. Moving along, we have Lifebind and Lingering Sustain. They already nerfed Lingering Sustain. I don't know why, but they already lowered Lingering Sustain. I think it should be increased. It's very powerful, and this is one of the abilities that you have to take on Soulweaver if you even want to try to be a healing Soulbinder. Now, Soulbind or Lifebind or whatever this calls, I don't think this is completely working yet, unfortunately. This is basically Knight's Valor on a Warlock. This, if you wanted to take Lifebind and play it appropriately, you would have to completely change your statistics. You would want to hit your defensive cap of 66,000 defense. You would want to hit all of those resistance caps. You would be completely changing the way you play Soulweaver because basically you become a meat shield. You take all 25% increased damage from your teammates. And like I said, it's not working right now, I don't think. So, yeah, that's an option that I don't think anyone's going to use, to be honest. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It needs adjusted. It needs fine-tuned. But yeah, everyone's going to take Lingering Sustain right now just for the fact that it's too good. And like I said, they nerfed it already, which I don't agree with. They should have left it the way it was. There was nothing overpowered with it. And it just decreased the overall healing now even more. We have Theft of Life versus From the Brink. Theft of Life is self-healing from Soul Defiler is now twice as effective. Soul Defiler is down here under your general mechanics. You heal yourself for 1% of the damage you deal, and you heal your allies for half this amount. This is complete dumpster fire. So taking Theft of Life is twice the effect, so you heal yourself for 2%, where you heal your teammates as 1%. This needs significantly buffed. If they would buff this, there would be a reason to use actual damage abilities, right? Self-healing from Soul Devourer is twice as effective. Soul Devourer, heal yourself for 1% of the damage you deal, so 2%. Well, 2% damage of Killing Flames is a joke. That's why this synergy just doesn't work right now. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Soul Devourer should be something along the lines of 10% base, 5% for allies, and then taking this would increase that to 20%. Then damage would become a factor in your overall healing. Not only would you be running some of this healing stuff, but Harrow's Storm might have another place now because it does have high amounts of damage, would then translate into even more healing, right? Theoretically, it would be 20% more healing. So not only would you get the DOT, the healing from Harrow's Storm itself, but then 20% more healing based on what Soul Devourer. Because right now it would be 2%. And it's not worth it. There's no it's garbage fire. Absolute garbage fire. However, we're taking that over from the brink. As your life diminishes, you gain up to 10% increased incoming healing. I mean, yeah, you can use it in a pinch situation, but I mean, it's garbage. Between the two, they're both bad. So it's like, well, you might as well just take this one for the 2%, I guess. Finally, here we come down to the end. Spark Energy. Powers that consume a Soul Spark generate 10% more AP. This is severely broken. They need to balance this. This is the Spark generates 10% more action points. I'm surprised that this is even a thing because they want you to only get 1 or 2 dailies per boss fight. There's things in the game that are broken right now where I can gain my 100% AP nonstop. I mean, I showed you guys how fast I gain AP on the Warlock, which is, I think, too high. I mean, well, I don't think it's too high. I don't want to see it nerfed, but for what the company's doing, it makes sense on why that would be 10%. Like, why is that 10%? Like, look how fast I'm gaining my AP back here with just that ability by itself. It's basically every time you use a ability that casts Soul Sparks, you gain 10%. So my AP is already back up to full already. So that is an issue with the balancing. I'm fine with it. Like, I don't want to see it nerfed, but I mean, if you're trying to actually balance the game, then this is definitely an issue. This could be abused fairly heavily. And of course, we're going to take that over. Consuming Lesser Curse grants yourself and nearby allies 2 action points. Yes, you heard that right. 2 action points. Keep in mind, you have 1,000 action points. Every time you consume a Lesser Curse, everybody gets 2 AP. That's literally 0.2%. What? What? That is an outrageous joke. So yes, this definitely needs fixed and reworked because right now, 0.2%, and in our current rotation, we're not even using AP, or I mean, we're not even using Lesser Curse in our rotation. So yeah, this is a joke, right? 2 action points? Okay. I think that's all we actually have to discuss, to be honest. That is the Soulweaver Warlock, guys. It's in a very bad spot right now. Hopefully some changes do happen, but I really don't know what to tell you guys. I told you guys in part 1 and part 2 and now in part 3 my feelings on the overall Mod 16 Warlock. Hopefully this gives you a glimpse. Developers, if you watched all 3 videos, I give you very much credit if you actually watched all 3 videos. I simply was not going to type out 20 pages of information on the message boards to be ignored. If you sat here and listened, you didn't even have to watch. You could have listened to the videos, all 3 videos, and at least gain some general knowledge on the Warlock. Because unfortunately, I believe No Worries is the one that's working on the Warlock, and I honestly just don't think he knows anything about the Warlock. No Worries, reach out to me, man. Call me on the telephone. Call me on Skype. Message me on Discord. Send me a fucking Telegram, dude. Like, I don't understand. I would be more than willing to help you balance the Warlock the way that it should be in the game, even if I don't agree with the path that the Warlock's taking. I rather the Warlock be done correct then you guys at the company just toss some shit together. Because I'm sick of it, man. The Warlock has been broken since its infancy in the game. When the Warlock came out, since day one, there's been something broke with it for the past several years. It's never been balanced fully. It's always been nerfed, buffed, nerfed, buffed, nerfed, buffed. It's probably one of the most nerfed classes in the entire game. It's seen its high points based on exploits and glitches, and then it's seen its very, very low points. And Cryptic, at one point, gave up on it. They said, you know what? Let's turn Temptation into a debuffing class. They put a 20% debuff on the capstone, and that was game, set, match. Right then and there. That was when Warlock threw in the towel. On the live servers, right now, there's no reason that any Warlock shouldn't be playing Temptation and group play for that 20% debuff. They literally killed the DPS aspect of Warlock. And now here we are in Mod 16, and you have the opportunity to change all of this around because you've wiped the slate clean, and you can now actually do something proactive for the class. So I'm begging you, dude, Astroidal, no worries, whatever developer is also working on the classes, reach out to me, talk to me. I'm more than willing to sit down and discuss this stuff. I mean, you had a Warlock in the pre-testing, and you basically ignored his advice. I don't know what the deal is. If you want the Warlock to be complete shit for the rest of this game's life cycle, then so be it. There's nothing I can do to change that. But if you want the Warlock to actually get balanced correctly, then talk to the community. Look at the feedback interaction that you guys have in the Warlock thread compared to the other threads that you're favoring. Look at the Barbarian, dude. The Barbarian gets 100% more attention than the Warlock. Hands down. You can't even argue that. So, like, I don't know what else to say. Let's wrap up the video here. That's Soulweaver. That's going to conclude the 3-part series. Again, if you didn't watch part 1 and part 2, links in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as they put updates out on preview, I will try to make updated Warlock videos, guys. That's going to wrap this one up. Leave me a comment below if you want to share your opinions on the Soulweaver or anything in general. I'll see you guys in the next video.